Welcome back to the Rush Hour. This morning, some city council members and advocates held a rally on the steps of City Hall. They were highlighting the detentions of immigrant New Yorkers and the need that those people have for legal services. This all comes after the city has seen an increased federal law enforcement presence, including that recent raid that took place on Canal Street, which led to multiple arrests there, and then an impromptu protest over the federal law enforcement actions that were taking place. New Yorkers who were protesting not happy with what they were witnessing. And there you can see the NYPD conducting crowd control while ICE was making those arrests. So joining me now to talk more about this and really what's been happening in the immigration courts recently is City Comptroller Brad Lander. Thank you for coming back on the Rush Hour. You have spent a lot of time down at 26 Federal Plaza and the other buildings where these hearings are underway. And I want to start with specifically of one case, and this is the 16-year-old Joel Camas. He went in for his regular court appearance, a New York City high school student, immigrant, and you escorted him in. So tell us what happened.
Yeah, so Joel is 16. He goes to Gotham Collaborative High School in the Bronx, and just such a sweet kid. I was asking him what class he was hoping to get back for. He was missing PE and history and really wanted to get back. He's working on getting his English better. This should have been a routine check-in. Joel has this thing called Special Immigrant Juvenile Status, or SIJ, and therefore we thought it would be a routine check-in. But first we went to 26 Federal Plaza. They said, no, you have to go over to Varick Street. And then they detained him.
Were you surprised that they detained him? I mean, it seemed like you were escorting him in, as you've done with others, in the expectation that he would be released. But what? That's
right. So before the Trump administration, if you had the special immigrant juvenile status, you would not be deported or detained. And that was why we thought he wouldn't be either. He came in voluntarily. His mom had gone back to Ecuador, but she heard the asylum case was denied. But he has the status that has been protected exactly because if you're like an aspiring young person without your parents, but who's here, going to school, doing the right thing, coming to your check-ins, that's who we want to have here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, first of all, do we know, because this was just in the end of last week that he was detained. I mean, he's a 16-year-old kid. Do we know where he is or what his status is or whether he'll have the option to remain in New York?
Well, one bit of good news is that his lawyer then immediately went into court and filed a habeas motion in federal court. And yesterday, the judge issued a temporary restraining order that ICE cannot deport him back to Ecuador while his case is in process. He's in Westchester in a holding facility that is at least designed to include young people. We were terrified he would wind up on the floor at 26 Federal Plaza in one of these awful detention facilities. And thankfully, they have to hear his case. They're not going to deport him. But again, he's 16 years old. He just wanted to be back in class.
Do you know how common these types of cases are where they are detaining young people who felt that they did have this special immigrant juvenile status, and then the Trump administration just unilaterally changed the policy without notifying them?
Yeah, we don't really. I mean, there's 5 or 6 New York City high school students like Dylan Contreras and others who have been detained. SIJ requires that you're on your own. You've been abandoned or abused by your parents. So there's a great, the Door and this group Rock NYC are trying to help young people who have SIJ or who are eligible for it to get it. I've accompanied 5 of them to check-ins or court. Before this, none of them had been detained.
Oh, wow. Okay. And that was going to be my next question. What are you advising people? They still have to show up for those court hearings or a whole other series of motions sets into effect, which is even worse, potentially.
I mean, SIJ, part of what it is a pathway to legal permanent residence, to getting a green card, to being here, legally, but you won't have that. So, I mean, people are making tough decisions, and everyone should get a lawyer and talk to their lawyer. But, I believe that Joel did the right thing by showing up as he was supposed to. The Trump administration wants to make this seem like, people are criminals. And what we're talking about is not only have people not done anything wrong, they're voluntarily showing up, even though they know that there's the risk this is going to happen.
I just want to ask you briefly, and then I want to move on to the federal government shutdown. But I want to talk about the tactics that ICE is using. You've been going down to immigration court frequently, as you've just mentioned. But we are seeing ICE go to other areas, targeting immigrant communities, like we saw on Canal Street, which is obviously known as an area where there are a lot of people from immigrant communities street vendors and the
Yeah,
like.
shocker.
Right?
They're selling
shocker.
knockoff Gucci bags on Canal Street. You know, it's not a national security issue.
But we're seeing ICE, and we're looking at some video there. They came in and they made these mass
With
arrests.
this military
Is that
presence.
a change in tactics?
Yes. I mean, they've been doing this in Chicago and in Los Angeles and in Portland and Washington, D.C., but not before here. Here, mostly, they've been in immigration court, and that's still terrible for a person who gets detained, still often very violent. They're still trying to instill fear in people, but this provoking chaos out on the streets of the city and trying to then provoke chaos. They brought reporters along from News Nation and from Fox. They want to display the military show of force, instill fear, and try to prompt chaos. It's like, I mean, how could it be that the federal government is coming to invade our cities and make them look like that?
We know that ICE has gotten a big new round of funding and is hiring more federal agents, but in the meantime, the federal government does remain shut down.
Yeah, seems like if they're shut down, the least they could do is stop abducting our neighbors and sending troops to our cities.
Talk about how the government shutdown, now the second longest in history, is impacting New York City in particular, from your position as city controller.
Yeah. And getting into November starts to really trip some things because there's not enough money even in this reserve fund for SNAP benefits. And so New York State is going to work hard to bridge everyone, but you start to worry how long. You can't bridge against everything, against SNAP, against WIC, against federal housing vouchers. So about 7,700 families have already lost their housing vouchers, but more are funded, and every month that goes on is more risk. I was with a big hospital CEO yesterday who said they're expecting to lose $100 million starting January 1st if the essential plan is killed.
And November 1st rolls around this week, and you said that a series of things launch into effect.
New York State is going to,
from the state, or no, it's going to be like a week by
New
week
York
thing.
State is going to, has said on SNAP and WIC for pregnant women and young mothers and for food stamps that they're going to cover for November, but they don't really know exactly how long it's going to be and what the implications will be, and there's a point at which the state will not be able to keep covering it.
City Controller Brad Lander, thank you for keeping us posted, and continue, please, to do so.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.